Have you ever looked up at the stars and wondered, are we alone? For millennia, humanity has told stories of gods descending from the heavens, powerful beings who shaped our world. What if those stories were more than just myths? What if they were memories? Today, we're journeying back in time to the dawn of civilization in ancient Sumer to uncover the story of the Anunnaki. Our tale begins not on Earth, but on a distant planet called Nibiru, according to the theories popularized by author Zechariah Sitchin, who interpreted ancient Sumerian cuneiform tablets. Nibiru has a long, elliptical orbit that brings it into our inner solar system only once every 3,600 years. The inhabitants of this world, the Anunnaki, were a technologically advanced race facing a dire crisis. Their planet's atmosphere was deteriorating, threatening all life. Their scientists discovered a solution. They needed to suspend fine gold particles in their upper atmosphere to repair the damage and shield them from radiation. But there was one problem: their homeworld was running out of gold. Desperate, they launched a mission across the solar system. Their search led them to a promising blue planet, rich in the precious metal they so desperately needed, Earth. Around 450,000 years ago, the first Anunnaki expedition, led by a being named Enki, splashed down in the Persian Gulf. They established their first settlement, Eridu, which meant home in the faraway. Their mission was simple: mine gold and ship it back to Nibiru. At first, the Anunnaki themselves undertook the grueling labor. They toiled in mines, primarily in what is now southern Africa, digging deep into the earth. But this was hard, back-breaking work, even for them. The rank-and-file Anunnaki miners eventually grew weary and rebelled against their leaders. They had traveled across the cosmos not for a life of endless labor, but for survival. A crisis erupted, and the mission was in jeopardy. This is where the story takes a fascinating turn, one that could redefine our understanding of human origins. Enki, a brilliant geneticist, proposed a radical solution. He suggested they create a primitive worker, a Lulu, by engineering the existing hominids on Earth. They wouldn't create a life form from scratch, but rather upgrade a species that was already here. They saw the potential in the early humans roaming the African plains. Through a process of genetic engineering, they combined their own Anunnaki DNA with the DNA of Homo erectus. The ancient texts describe this process in detail, mentioning the involvement of Ninhursag, the chief medical officer. The goal was to create a being intelligent enough to understand commands and perform complex tasks, but not so advanced as to pose a threat. The result was a new species, Homo sapiens datus. The first humans, referred to as the Adamu in the texts, were created to be slaves, to take over the burden of mining gold for the Anunnaki. This creation story echoes in many cultures worldwide, most notably in the biblical account of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. The Sumerian texts even speak of a place called Din, the abode of the righteous ones, and describe how these first humans were initially unable to procreate, a detail that was later changed. For thousands of years, humanity served its creators. We mined their gold, built their cities, and worshipped them as gods. The Anunnaki were tall, often described as giants, with long lifespans stretching for millennia. They were the figures we see in ancient carvings and statues, the powerful deities of the Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian, and Assyrian pantheons. Names like Enlil, Enki, Inanna, and Marduk weren't just mythical figures. They were, according to this theory, the actual Anunnaki leaders who ruled over humanity. They taught us agriculture, astronomy, mathematics, writing, and law. They gave us the building blocks of civilization. Think about it. Why did human civilization suddenly explode in somewhere around 6,000 years ago? We went from hunter-gatherers to city builders in a geological blink of an eye. Proponents of the ancient astronaut theory argue that this sudden leap was no accident. It was a direct result of the Anunnaki's guidance. They needed an organized workforce, so they created organized society. But the relationship between the Anunnaki and their creations was complex and often troubled. There were rivalries and power struggles among the Anunnaki leaders themselves, particularly between the half-brothers Enki and Enlil. Enki, humanity's creator, was often seen as our protector, while Enlil, the commander of the Earth mission, viewed humans as mere tools and was often annoyed by our noise and our growing numbers. This conflict came to a head with the event of the Great Flood. The Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh, which predates the biblical story of Noah by thousands of years, tells a strikingly similar tale. In this version, the god Enlil, infuriated by the clamor of humanity, decides to wipe them out with a catastrophic flood. But Enki, in secret, warns a righteous man named Etnapishtim. He instructs him to build a great boat and save his family, along with the seed of all living things. When the flood waters receded, Enlil was furious to find that humans had survived. But he was eventually persuaded to allow humanity to continue, and a new pact was formed. Humans would be allowed to flourish and govern themselves, but the Anunnaki would remain their gods, their ultimate rulers from a distance. So, what happened to them? Why aren't they ruling over us today? The story gets murkier here, with various interpretations. Some theories suggest that as their home planet Nibiru made its last pass through our solar system, many of the Anunnaki simply packed up and went home. Their mission was largely complete, or perhaps internal conflicts and the challenges of managing a growing human population became too much. Other theories propose that they never left. Instead, they retreated into the shadows, influencing human affairs from behind the scenes. They became the secret societies, the illuminated bloodlines, the hidden hand guiding the destiny of our species. Perhaps their descendants still walk among us, indistinguishable from ordinary humans, carrying on an ancient legacy. The pyramids, Stonehenge, the Nazca lines were these monuments built by ancient people with primitive tools. Or did they have help? Are they markers, power stations, or navigational aids for a technology we can't yet comprehend? The evidence for this incredible story is, of course, highly debated. It rests on interpreting ancient texts not as mythology, but as history. It requires us to look at the carvings of winged figures, men in what look like flying craft, and depictions of DNA-like structures, and see them not as symbolic art, but as literal depictions of real events and technology. Mainstream archaeology and history dismiss these ideas as pseudoscience. They argue that the Sumerian tablets are religious myths, allegories explaining the world in a pre-scientific age. They point out that there is no physical evidence of Nibiru or of a technologically advanced civilization in our deep past. But the questions remain. How did the Sumerians have such advanced knowledge of the solar system, including descriptions of planets like Uranus and Neptune that weren't officially discovered until the 18th and 19th century? How did they know the color of these distant planets? How did they calculate the cosmos with such precision? Why do so many ancient cultures, separated by vast oceans and thousands of years, share such similar creation stories and myths of gods from the sky? Whether you believe the story of the Anunnaki is literal history or a powerful metaphor, it forces us to ask profound questions about who we are and where we come from. Are we the product of random evolution on a lonely planet? Or are we part of a much grander cosmic story? Are we the children of the stars, engineered for a purpose we are only just beginning to understand? The truth, as they say, might be stranger than fiction. It might be written in stone, buried in the sands of Iraq, waiting for us to finally learn how to read it. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the distant past. If you found this story fascinating, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the unknown. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, keep questioning.